Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Method in Madness. This is episode number 43. 43 episodes. Who would have thought when we heard about the first COVID case in India right around this time in Kerala, if everybody remembers. But today, here we are after one full year, and we are still at home, but we are better in our hearts and our minds, and very positive and hopeful about tomorrow. Today, we are going to talk about tomorrow and life skills that our children need, and perhaps we need for a more profitable, a more beneficial, and a more beautiful tomorrow. Games are something that teach us not just how to strategize, but how to learn to live. Games are not just for fun, but they help us to learn more than what books can teach us. Today, to talk about games and how board games can become your partners for lifelong learning, we have Nidhi Jain Seth. Nidhi Jain is the founder of Pinnacle and Positively Perfect, a design and manufacturing company for inspirational gifts, games, and awards. Her company has served over 2,000 brands, shipped millions of customized products across India and the world, and yet Nidhi's journey as a student never stops. Formally, she graduated from SRCC in 1997, but she continues to learn to this date. She has taken various short and long term courses from IIMB, Harvard, ISB, Corning Glass School, Aramont Art School, to name a few. Nidhi has also launched two product lines along with Devdag Patnaik, My India by Devdak, and Epically Games. The former is a curated collection of products based on Indian mythology and our rich heritage, while Epically is a collection of games to bring our children closer to our culture and to life. Welcome, Nidhi.
Hi, Vaishali. How are you? Thank you for having me
I'm,
here.
thank you for agreeing to come and share your experience with us.
Oh, I'm so
Um,
excited.
I'm excited too. So, just to let all our audience members know, Nidhi and we're going to talk for the next 45 minutes. And then we're going to take up your questions if you have any. But alongside, as we speak and have this conversation, please do feel free to join us on the chat section. There's a comment and chat section over there. And please feel free to join in the conversation. So we might pick up something that you've said and continue with our conversation. All right. So Nidhi, let's get going.
Yes. Where do you
Games,
want me to
my favorite, and you can make it with the smile on my face. I'm so excited to just talk about games. I
start?
remember Nidhi, I'm sure that all our viewers today, they know that when we were growing up, as children, the two board games that marked our growing up were Ludo and Sapsidi.
Yes.
I think I think that taught us not just patience, but a lot of commitment as well. So these are the two life skills that I think I have worked on a little because of those games that I've played year on year. So let me
Okay.
start with asking this question, Nidhi. What was your favorite board game when you were growing up? And I also ask this question to all our viewers. Please type down your favorite board game when you were growing up. Yes, Nidhi.
Okay. Actually, my favorite board game at that time was Scotland Yard. Very
Ah.
yes, because it was all about finding somebody who's not there, and you were always
Mhm.
guessing, and there was a lot of things in it. So that was my
Mhm.
favorite board game. Of course, we, like you just mentioned, Ludo and Samsiri, we all played, but it was just like everyday play, and it was just like who's gonna win, and of course, Samsiri. By the way, did you know that Samsiri was actually developed in India. It was done by the Jain monks to teach about uh, karm, good karm and bad karm to its disciples. It was not just about numbers. It was not about who reaches the first on the top. And that's what I realized. I got to know about this just 3 years back when I was in conversation with Dev, that in fact it started with Samp Siri and he telling me the story that do you know, and I forgot what it is. I think it is what called Papat. Okay, I keep forgetting the names, but the Samp CD was a game actually done by the Jain monks to teach children and everybody about the good karma and the bad karma. And then I saw this Samp CD in the National History Museum in Delhi. And I was like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And we just thought it was a simple game which came from the West, and it is just to teach us about maths, probably.
Probably. And we used to always dread that big snake at
Yeah.
99, which would bring
Yes.
you down to seven, I think, or five. I don't remember.
Yeah. I think that was, yeah. Like, oh my God, I just want to get past this. Yes, that's true. But and that's what, a lot of subtle things are underneath. So just imagine, why is that snake at 98,
99,
98 or
yes.
99? Because it
Mm,
tells you at any time, even if you reach to the top, you can come right down.
yes.
There are a lot of subtle messages which are built into the game which we don't even realize. But the thing is that we're taking a learning back. You can never get comfortable. You can never get comfortable. And that's what is the magic of games and the power of
Yes.
games and what they can teach you.
So tell us about the importance of games in the way we learn, Nidhi.
Okay, so I think I have to say, as I have discovered it myself when we started designing games,
Hmm.
because earlier as a growing up child, you just played games because you wanted to play games. There was no, why do I want to play games? Nothing like that. But right now,
Hmm.
when I started my work with Dev Dutt, and we were like, how can we take a message of which is the rich things which are built into a mythology in a fun way to children? Because otherwise they just either want to watch TV or they can read a book, but then that's not that interesting. So we thought, wow, games is our medium. That's what we want to take. And that's when I started my deep research, that how and why games. And that's where I got my answer. In the ancient times, every learning was by doing. There is a
Hmm.
game, if you want to learn counting, there weren't any books. If you wanted to learn counting, there were games for that. We know some of the games, but we would never know everything, because not everything was that not everything was written down, but everything was learning by doing. And to make it
Hmm.
interesting, it was gamified. Every skill, whether it is strategy, whether it is commerce, whether it is planning, everything was taught through games.
Yes, and I think when you're playing, you're at your best self because you're cognitively aware and you're also alert and you are focused. And I think what board games do is just bring your focus down to, zoom it down to the
Zoom it
point.
out. I
Because I
totally agree with
remember,
you.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I remember while we used to play with our cousins, our parents would keep calling us to eat dinner and eat food and, stop playing, but we wouldn't.
Yes.
And it had to do with the engagement that that game gave us. I
Yes.
always wondered, Nidhi, how can we bring learning,
Yes.
into the forefront through
Yeah.
gaming? Please share some of your, stories, personal stories, which have actually showed you probably a way to do or not to do a thing, and you've learned that through gaming.
Okay. So this was early on, like, you had done all this research that every learning is through the games. And like you rightly mentioned, games bring the attention and the focus. And that's when the learning really happens. अगर दिमाग बटा हुआ हो हजार चीजों में, you can't
Mm.
learn because your mind is somewhere else and you think your heart is somewhere else. But in the game, you want to win. So your eyes are seeing it, your hands are working with it, you're totally there. And that's where the learning is great. So all that happened, and I remember one of the first games that I launched was epically Ramayan, and my niece and nephews and friends, children, they were all guinea pigs, because we would do
Mm.
something and then I would take the dummy game to them as like, okay, let's play the game. And then I suddenly like I'm the and they came to a point like, oh god, now you're going to play the game again with us. But uh,
Mm.
so this was a time when my niece, she was all of, I think, 4.5 or 5, and a 4.5 and a 5-year old child doesn't know how to read, right? And this was a memory game based on Ramayan. So
Mm.
even the reading was very little part of it, it just had the titles on it. But I didn't think that it was important to play with her because she couldn't read anything. I was like, to wo dur baithti thi, and I would play with my nephew. I remember after 4 or 5 days, she made a phone call to me and she said, "Bua, आपको पता है मुझे सारी रामायण आ गई." And I was like, "What?" Like I didn't ask her anything. There was no
Mm.
conversation. There was nothing. Like we were just not including her in the game. And I later
Mm.
on learned that she wanted to be a part of it, and she went ahead and spoke to Amma, my mother,
Mm.
and said कि रामायण की मुझे कहानी बताओ. And then she took one card and then she said ये बताओ, ये बताओ, ये बताओ. So what I'm trying to get at is that playing a game, what I realized the key part is the conversation.
Mm.
The conversation that it starts with the parents, within the children. Some are great, some may be not that valuable, but it doesn't matter. Those conversations are the one which bring the change.
Mm. Why did you go for myth and mythology?
I think that has to do with the way Devdutt explains the
Mm.
things. So I work with Devdutt in creating a lot of products. That was our initial mission of taking uh, the learning of our mythology and bringing it to everyday life. So I work with him. I've developed this brand called My India by Devdutt, where we create a lot of merchandise which takes mythology and brings it into everyday products, which people can use, people can gift. And that's why when I saw that, and I was like, oh my God, I have to take it to the children as well, because otherwise, you have only for the adults and there's nothing for the children. And the children are the foundation. Like, just imagine if all that great learning is seeded at that level, they're
Mm-hmm.
sorted for life,
Yeah.
isn't it? That's why we said, like, okay, I want to do. So Devdutt, as an amazing person who loves, who can create a lesson out of every story. And my
Mm.
mission is to take those lessons to our children and the masses.
All right. Um, Tell us a little bit about ancient, traditional games. I'm sure you, during your research for designing the game, you must have come across various traditional Indian games that people would play generations ago. And I think those life skills that they build are not this whole 21st century thing that is going around. I feel there's nothing 21st century about anything. There are some basic life skills that really are timeless and that works for every tomorrow, not just tomorrow. Tell us a little bit about board games that you have researched on, the ancient board games, while designing this, and how was this process of designing a memory game? Can we do it? Like, can laymen also do it? There are lots of teachers who are watching us, Nidhi, today.
Oh,
If a
that's
teacher
amazing.
wants,
Yeah.
can they also design a memory game?
Of course, memory game. So, firstly, I really liked what you just said. Firstly, about there are no 21st century life skills, which is so true, because we live in this thing. Oh my God, now we need new skills. They're not new by any standard, they're just coming in a new Um,
Package.
yeah, new package. Perfect. They're just being packaged. We still are humans. We still need that connection. Even on Zoom, I need that connection. If I'm a black screen, you don't feel that good. You
Yeah.
still need that connection. So there are no 21st century skills, which means what was relevant thousands of years back is still relevant, doesn't change.
Mm, mm,
Secondly, what I really liked what you said was there is no for every tomorrow.
yeah.
It's beautiful, yeah, because it's absolutely true. Because somehow, a lot of us, we keep looking for that something new कि ये learn कर लेते हैं सब सेट हो
Mm-hmm.
जाएगा. ऐसा कुछ नहीं
Mm-hmm.
होता है, which is what we learned that so the first game, like you asked that so the first game that we picked up to launch was a memory game. It is so simple, any teacher can do it. You can do it on any subject you like. They're just two cards which have to match, and you can make it on anything, right? um, a memory game in itself, it builds focus. Because you're focused on that, you have to remember where is the position of that card. So it improves your short term memory. It
Mm,
improves your retention because you have to remember, oh, this card is this place, and you start to associate position with the card. So all those
mm,
really work. So it is the simplest way, easiest to understand, and that's the reason why we picked up the memory card game as our first game. So, to answer your question, teachers, please, on any subject, let me just open up the card and show to you. So, this is Epically Ramayan. And in that, we have made two cards. One is a story card, it's purple in color, and it has art. So, this is the art card, and this is the story card, which has a little story around it. So, if let's say you want to teach children about, let's say, science, and there is some little story here about that matter or that phenomena or that product, and on this card is the product, what happens is that if you just show them a book, they will read it one time and get over
mm,
with it. They're not going to pick it up
mm,
again and again. But a memory game, they can, maybe once a week. So it becomes a part of their conversation.
mm,
Yeah, it becomes more deep rooted. So this is a very, very simple method. But according to me, in all my things, it is a very powerful one used for which can be applied in any form of learning. And all you need is two pieces of card, print it, cut it, give it to children. In fact, let them color it, and they can easily play the memory game. Yeah.
We have heard of a lot of strategy games. Like
Oh
chess
yeah.
is a major strategy game.
Oh yes.
What, what other strategy games do you think children should be exposed to, and especially these Indian board games, which kind of are coming back into are surfacing now after a long stint underground. Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree. In fact, the Indian version of the chess, I think it's called the Chaduranga, was 144 square game. It was far more complicated. It obviously went to the West and then came back in a very easier format. And not just in India, even Chinese have a format of a game. It's very easy to learn because there is just one. I'm again forgetting the name. I'm really bad at remembering the names. But that one is also based on strategy. So Chadugaranga is there, or even the Pachisi. In fact, Pachisi is just like Ludo, and that is also a national board game. That so Ludo is very simple, right?
Mhm.
You just keep going round and round, and whoever wins, and like whoever gets their thing first wins. But Chisi has a bit of a strategy around it. It is
Okay.
like, how can you skip, and you can't just play it. Okay, which one do you want to play? You can't just play it instantly. And I think
Mm.
that is one of the things which has happened कि जो थोड़ा difficult होता है पढ़ने के लिए या याद करने के लिए, it doesn't spread
Mm-hmm.
that easily, right? It is.
Mm.
It just takes little time, so people just uh, make it easier so that everybody can then sort of play. But having said that, I have to say that a lot of games that, as you rightly said, are coming back. In fact, one of the things that me and Devdutt are also working around is how do we get the games back in their original format, but a lot more easier to explain and sort of disseminate so that
Mm-hmm.
children can really get the benefit out of it.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. So when we're talking about pachisi or chess or even Ludo,
Yeah.
these are mix of chance and strategy,
Yes.
is it not? So there is chance and there is strategy. So when you are devising games, what is the quotient? I mean, how much of strategy goes into basically the, the the content of the play, and how much of chance? Like Saab CD is completely chance. You have to just roll the die, and if you get whichever number you get, you have to go by that number, right? But in Ludo, you can decide. You have a choice.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
is not just chance; it is also a choice.
Yes.
So a good healthy board game, what should it have? Should it have a combination of both, or just strategy, or just chance?
To be honest, it's just like life. Life,
Hmm.
you have options, you have some things are fixed. You can't do anything about it, but something depends on you. Like in
Hmm.
chess, you're saying that, oh, it's a lot to do with strategy and maybe something about chance, but maybe in chess, everything is strategy. But
Hmm.
if you look at it another way, a lot is chance because you don't know what the other person is going to do. You can only predict that much, isn't it?
Hmm.
So it games are very similar to life. Very similar. You can take a chance on them and think, oh, it is all fate. Or you can take things in your control and say, oh, this is what I plan to do. And sometimes it's not important to overthink it. So, quite honestly, I have
Hmm.
to say, um, it's not, oh, it should be a 70-30 proportion or 50-50, nothing like that. But interestingly that you picked it out in our game, the new game that I made, which was Epically Money, this one, it was very, one of the core thing in this game is decision making, which means I
Hmm.
have removed in this game everything which had to do with, a lot which had to do with chance, not everything. Like, so
Hmm.
it has a
Hmm.
decision dice, and even in the decision dice, I have changed it and I have said, I want, which means when you roll the dice, you pick what you want. It's not, so on four things, the dice tells you what you're going to get, but the fourth and the fifth and the sixth option, two options are I want, because we want
Oh.
children to decide how they want to spend their money and what is the effect of their decision.
Hmm. True. Let us talk about money then, because that I think is a very very
Yeah.
important life skill that we need to give our children,
Oh, yes.
and in a way which is healthy, um, which is for the benefit of self and others at the same time.
Yes.
Like Nidhi, we have all grown up in middle class households.
Yes.
We are the first generation, I think, who saw FDI coming in,
Yes.
and when Coca-Cola was like a big thing, I used to kind of store my pocket money for months to go and then buy Coca-Cola and Perk and all these things.
I totally.
So yeah, so why money? First, that is my question. Because yes, definitely when you made your memory game, you were thinking about cognitive intelligence. You were thinking about memory and basic life skills like focus and everything. But what made you create a money-based game, Nidhi?
Okay. So this started with the book that Devdutt had written. It was called How to Become Rich.
Hmm.
And I read through that book, read through a lot of his books, and it was priceless information about money, about what we can learn from our Purans about money, about savings, about investment, about not spending and not spending everything that you earn. There were so many good things in it that I can't tell you. And I was like, Devda, this is priceless. We need to take this to children. And he's like, okay, fine. How? I was like, games. I was like, okay, so both of us got together and then we started making the game. This is almost 2 years back. And so Devdutt also has a very big mission because he also had a very humble beginning, and I've had a personally a very painful start with money as well. uh, for I lost my dad when I was just 19, and you can imagine in 1996 how it used to be. If you suddenly you are in such a big, like you're just 19 years old and you're supposed to know how to do
Hmm.
a lot of things, um, and nobody really taught us about money. Like, do you remember
Hmm.
anybody sitting down and telling you? All they said कि
No.
पैसे पेड़ पे थोड़ी उगते हैं। मेह
Huh.
हाँ,
Correct.
सब ये बोलते कि
Hmm.
मेहनत करो, सेव करो, बचाओ, but nobody really taught us how to spend money. We all learn how to
Correct.
earn money, but spending, and isn't spending as equally important as earning?
And
So then,
saving, yes.
and
Hmm.
saving, like, um, so that's when it started with Devdutt. And then I looked at that book and we went through multiple iterations. So that is the first time when we decided we have to do about money. And this is very close to his heart. And I had a painful start. So, but ye to pakka ho gaya that we have to take up this topic because nobody is really talking about it. In schools, nobody focuses on teaching about money, but our
Hmm.
children need to know. Our children need to know how can we live happily. It's not about getting more and more and more money, but it is about being happy no matter what, right?
Hmm.
So that's how we decided that okay, money it is. And then the journey started and we connected with a lot of mm, child psychologists, doctors, and mm, successful entrepreneurs. And we connected with yeah, people who invest a lot of money, and we went back to
Hmm.
their childhood. Like, okay, what is that one lesson that you think you should have had when you were 18 years old? And like that, we had lot of research, lot of back and forth, and that's how we came up with this game of Epically Money.
How is it different from Monopoly? Because I remember Monopoly being one of the birthday gifts, the quintessential birthday gifts that we would get. How is it different from Monopoly?
Oh, Vishali, you've really asked me the right question. I have to tell you, the moment I said everybody epically money, वो बोलते हैं अच्छा तो ये इंडियन मोनोपोली जैसा है, and my answer is इसमें मोनोपोली का कुछ भी नहीं है. The only similarity is उसमें भी पैसे यूज होते हैं और इसमें भी पैसे यूज होते हैं. That's it.
Hmm.
See, monopoly is all about buying things. ये भी खरीदना है, वो भी खरीदना है, ये भी खरीदना है, and collecting rent on it. Great game. However, this game is all about teaching our children decision making about spending money and starting those conversations. Remember when I told you that we are focusing on the conversation part? So that is
Yeah.
not changed in this game either. Now imagine you are with your children, but do you know what is their personality? Money personality? No. आपको नहीं पता है कि what is their focus. But when you start playing the game, and in the game, there are 5 separate things in which they can spend. It's either things or savings or savings or caring or fun. And when you see them repeatedly spending most of their money on things, you realize where their attention is going. Or when they're
Mm,
spending money on care, you know that, oh, yeah. Or it is on
mm,
fun, you know where they are going with their money
mm,
spending habits. But it's not about tracking where they are going with their money spending habits, it's about the conversations. So for example, in the game there is this thing where uh, so you get a fixed income and you have to spend that income throughout the year with fixed expenses every month. You can't change expenses, but every other expense, you have a decision. You can do it or you can skip it. And that's where you learn what's going on in your children's mind. And children
mm,
learn, अगर मैंने सारे expenses इसमें खर्च कर दिए तो बाद में तो कुछ बचेगा नहीं.
mm.
That's where the learning happens.
I get you. Mm. Can we just see the game once again? You were showing it to us.
Oh yeah, I was. I'm gonna try and okay, so that's how the game looks. Okay.
Okay.
So we have the five. So this is the decision dice. This is
Okay.
the wallet. This is the wallet where they keep the money. So they learn a lot of math in it. They learn how to deal with money and keep track. Like, so whenever they are spending money in any of the category, they put it here. At the end of the year, they have to tally their results, which means they understand how and where they have spent most money. So
Mm-hmm.
there is a tab. There are savings, expenses, fun, care, and things. And this
Mm.
is where they end up spending money, and then there is a lot of money. And in the end, like in life, can you see these four trophies? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. So in the end, what we've also kept is that life is not just about, there's never one winner in life. That's what Devda talks
Mm.
about in mythology. In the Western ideology, there is like, I win, you lose. But in our
Yeah.
Indian
True.
context, it's like कि भाई market बहुत बड़ा है, तुम भी जीतो मैं भी जीतूंगा, isn't it? So
Mm.
that's why we have four different trophies. Again, something that children start to associate themselves with, and it works at a subconscious level. So everything is sort of planned for that. So you become a savings and investment champion. You become a you can become a fun collector or a things maestro or a golden heart winner. So yeah, that is
All
what is
right.
the whole idea. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Nidhi, for showing us the game. And I'm sure I'm going to buy that because I did buy Epically Ramayan. And my
Oh
husband and
yeah,
I, we had so much fun playing it. I mean, we are all way beyond the age to play, but we enjoyed it. We enjoyed
yeah,
it, and we also brought in our cousins and our friends, and we kind of challenged them that, "Chalo, मुझे पता करना है कि तुम कितना जानते हो रामायण के बारे में." And then they would falter. Then we would play that game, and I think that's a fantastic game.
right.
Just to know the content, and also suddenly you become so conscious and aware of your mind, how it works. It's
Right,
amazing. I think everybody who's watching us today should try this because a general, memory game also. I remember playing this during birthday parties. We
right,
would have a tray and we would keep lots of objects in it, on that tray.
right,
And then we would cover that tray. And
right,
one by one, children would come and we would show the tray, uncover it and show it, and then cover it back, and then ask them to write down whatever they remember.
right, right. No,
So I,
that's true.
yeah, I think because we grew up playing these games and not just gluing ourselves into the screen and playing video games. Um, there still is this element of curiosity which is left in our generation, I think.
Yeah,
What do you
that's
think
true.
about that? What do you
Yeah.
think has happened
Okay,
with the
so
with the
yeah,
video games coming in? Yeah. So sorry, go on.
yeah. So with video games, see, all kind of learnings happen. So I wouldn't say that video games, of course, excessive of everything is bad. And the trouble with the video games is that it is so engaging, almost addictive and engaging, is because it engages more of your senses. There's music, there's imagery which is fast moving, and everything is cut, cut, cut. So it really holds your attention far greater than what it should. And that's why it tends to a little addiction level. Okay, I have, and the people who design the game, they're very smart because they're like, I have to win, and I have to come on the leaderboard, and I have to come first. And that's why. But having said that, of course, a lot of uh, learning happens in those games as well, be it strategy, be it analytical or whatever. Of course, some of the games only your thumbs hurt because all you're doing is, punching things and letting them fall or something. But yeah, so learning happens. But I want to come back to the previous question that you had about
Mm.
the memory games.
Yeah.
And I think in the memory game, especially like when we did epically Ramayana or epically this thing, money, uh, the conversations can go further. So, for example, just think about the Ramayana game. I remember we were doing this one. We were doing a session with Devdutt, and think about it, when and he's narrated this beautiful story, and which is what we can take the learning to the next level. This is where the role of the parents and more conscious parents and teachers or probably can also come in. That imagine we can share about, if you don't share your things, what can happen. And give an example of Vali. He didn't want to share his kingdom, and imagine what happened. So teaching about sharing, not by just saying अरे share करा करो बहुत अच्छी चीज होती है. Give an example. Or think about the small squirrel who was putting, you remember that story of a squirrel when the setu band was getting made. No? Okay.
Mm,
So when the
no.
Setu Bandh was okay, so when the Setu Bandh was getting made, and Nal and Neel and everybody, they were constructing it, एक छोटी सी गिलहरी थी जो इतने छोटे छोटे पत्थर, गिलहरी कितने बड़े पत्थर उठा सकती है, वो उठा के उसमें डाल रही थी बंद बनाने के लिए. और सब लोग उसके ऊपर हंसने लगे कि मतलब तू मत कर यार, कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ने वाला तुम्हारे इतने छोटे छोटे पत्थरों से. And nobody asked her to do it, but she was doing it. and
Mm.
and that is what so that story is gone into our leadership book, and it says, does the size of the contribution matter? It's too small. But what we have to realize is that it was everything that that gilhari could do. It
Could
was the
do.
biggest rock that gilhari could pick up. So sometimes imagine if we have that conversation with children and we say, so don't worry about how big your contribution is or not is. Like it's very similar to even that jellyfish story, isn't it? Ki,
Mm.
why should I throw this fish? Like there are thousands of fish who are lying, dying on this seashore. Even if I put this one back, how does it matter? But the thing is that for that fish, it's everything.
It's everything.
It
Yeah.
matters. That's how. So what games like this or epically money, the way we have designed it, and even the other Indian ancient games, is about taking that conversations to the next level. It doesn't stop. So for example, in our games, you have expense cards which are fixed. Okay, we have put in expenses in it, such as paying for the credit card debt, paying for a loan installment, paying for a heavy medical expense, and you can't run away from it. Everything else
Mm.
you have a choice, but not in expenses. And isn't that a reality?
It is. It
It is.
is. You have to pay your bills. You- what about credit card? Do you have a system for credit also in this?
Oh my God, I'm so happy you talked about it because that is a very big thing in our game. In our game, because we want to encourage children to build an understanding of savings and investment. So
Mm.
everything that they save, like they get opportunities to save multiple times when the dice roll comes, um, will double up at the end of the year.
Hmm.
Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
if you run out of money, which you may if you buy a lot of things, you can take any amount of loan, no problem. But
Hmm.
at the end of the year, you have to pay back double the amount.
Of the loan?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh God. Okay.
So, so what are we teaching children? That taking a loan is not the solution.
Mm.
Because the reality is that because it is becoming so convenient, we are becoming that. We are coming with that. Wouldn't like to just say the Western thought, because it is an Indian thought also now, that कि भाई ठीक है जो भी
Mm.
करना है लोन लो खत्म करो, पे कर देंगे. But it
Mm.
just builds up, builds up, builds up. That's what we want to also. So that was a very big part of our thing. Save, it doubles up. Take a loan, you have to pay double.
I think that's very, very important because
Yeah.
life has the perception of spending has become so off the real thing. Just because you have a card that you can keep swiping,
Yeah.
that it is ridiculous to an extent that children have stopped. I wouldn't say stopped, but they don't have any kind of a sense to value the money because it's paperless money. They can't see money, and
Yeah.
we can't blame the children because they haven't seen that. They haven't.
Uh,
And yeah, go on.
no, no, I just wanted to add on. You're absolutely right. To blame our children कि भाई तुम इतनी आसानी से पैसे खर्च कर रहे हो, वो बिल्कुल गलत है. Absolutely wrong. Because do it yourself. Don't spend on credit. Spend cash. Promise you won't be able to spend that money, because that physical thing of removing that money and going versus a plastic card is totally different. Totally different.
Yeah, I think we have digressed a lot. Because I think when we're talking about life skills, money, and if we can look at life through the whole transactional quality of money, also that kind of gives us a lot of perspective into how to live, and I think that could also be brought out by these games that we are playing, like especially the money game that you have created. But if I had to take a suggestion from you, Nidhi, what is the game that we can easily, bring into our classrooms? Because I'm getting a lot of questions regarding bringing games into classrooms. What would be that ideal board game that we can play in a classroom, which would make sense?
Okay, it's a tough question, because the fact is that in a classroom you have to engage 20, 30 people. Board
Hmm.
games are by nature designed for two, three, four players. So technically, if I would say, there isn't really a board game that I can say that, okay, you can play this in a classroom and it'll deliver the same amount of, unless you really want to divide the children in four, in four, four groups of four, and they can play together. And here I'd like to say that really, I wouldn't like to say, oh, you know what, just go ahead and play epically money, or you know what, just go ahead and
Hmm.
play monopoly or something. Because the thing is that every child learns differently, and we have no idea what is that moment of learning. We have no idea. And
Hmm.
the conversations, again, I'm going to come back to the conversations. You have no idea when the conversations are going to change and what will it be around. So my suggestion would be add variety. It's just like like you have a menu card. Just keep
Hmm.
changing and see what is your audience resonating to, because it changes from city, it changes from time to time. But it's just that if we add enough variety and ask, maybe we can ask them to bring in the games they have, and
Hmm.
then they play with each other, and then you switch, and then so that's how the variety can come in the classroom. uh, And that's how the children could benefit from it too.
Absolutely.
Another,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, go on, go on.
No, no, no. I just also said that another thing is that a lot of times, um, again, I don't want to make it an overkill, but we really don't value. We putting often, I should say often, we put little value on the conversations because he like, अरे, but just imagine, even if it is about money, जैसे आप money के बारे में सोचिए. Uh, everybody has, if I say how to become rich, and a
Hmm.
lot of people will like, rich?
Rich.
Yeah.
Mm.
What do you mean? Are you greedy? Like, what do you mean how to become rich? But think about it. अगर हम बोले अम, हम पूजा करते हैं लक्ष्मी जी की, घर में लक्ष्मी आती है और ज्यादा लक्ष्मी आती है, अच्छी चीज है. What is the difference between the two sentences?
Yeah. And
Now,
rich in what context? That is also another question.
no, let's say money context. Let's simplify that. Money
Okay.
only. I want
All
more
right.
money. The
Okay.
moment I say I want to be rich,
Yeah, there is a stigma. There is a
there is a
stigma.
stigma to it because we have been conditioned like that. Oh, rich, you can't earn more money without exploitation. And that's what Devdutt really put it out very beautifully. He said, and that लक्ष्मी अगर घर में आ रही है तो ठीक है, वो भी तो यही फॉर्म है. Now
Hmm.
imagine if in your class you talk about this, talk about money in the class, talk
Hmm.
about spending money, you would be so surprised because I've had countless conversations with children about money, and the kind of answers I get from them, what they want to do with money, is so funny. Like they will start from giving all Miss India, Miss Universe type answers. I want to help this person do this. And then some of the children are, honest enough to, no, I just want to go and do a lot of shopping. Or yeah, or I want to open a sweet shop because I want to eat sweets all the time. So it's a lot of different fun for them to come up with things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, true. I think we have had a great conversation. Let's take some questions here. Um, Okay, so Mitali is a teacher. She's from Hyderabad, and she's a very senior teacher, and she's a regular, audience member. Thank you, Mitali, for joining again. She's asking, can playing a game lesson-wise can reduce the boredom in the class? She's asking many questions, but this is a question that I would like to ask you. Can playing a board game or a game, lesson-based game, bring down boredom in class?
100%. Think about it yourself. If I'm a student and if you were a student, will it bring it down? Of course it will. For one, they'll be so engaged because it is they want to maybe come first, maybe they want to they want to answer it, or they want to engage with the same topic in a very different manner. And that is why even in the corporate
Hmm.
world, a lot of learning is getting gamified. A lot of learning, a lot of
Yes, it is.
strategy, everything is getting gamified because they know that games can really engage people at a very different level. So
It
the
does. In
answer
fact,
is
I was having this conversation. The answer is yes, yes, Mitali.
yes.
No, I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine who works with game thinking. In fact, I'm going to bring him to do a method in madness, talk in March, and he's going to talk about game thinking. And I think this is something which is very, very important in today's high-paced life that we lead and live.
Yes.
Vishakha has a question which is about life. Um, she's asking, don't loans help people live a comfortable life?
Of course they do. Of course they do. But what we want to get clear is that to what extent? It's all about balance. It's not about, so the whole thing is that these days some of the children are getting the idea कि भाई loan लो, credit card पे सब हो जाता है. and everybody has multiple credit cards, right? So that is the thinking that we want to sort of change. So yeah.
Mm. All right. We have another question. Guys, please ask questions because I think Nidhi and I have another 10 minutes with us to answer them. Mitali is asking, what is the best game which can be played during this online teaching thing or played online? Have you done any research on that?
Um, to be honest, no, because one of the core values that we want to follow at Epically is the human connection, which is something that people. So we are steering away from online games, but.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a right answer, but yes, what I would like to say for the online games is the games in which more and more children can be involved, because often otherwise what happens is that 3 4 children get involved, the people who can speak more and get their voice
Mm-hmm.
heard, and the rest of them all silence out. So a game which can be played at a similar level, like at the same time a multiple people can be engaged, either they can type in their thing in a padlet or something like that, but more and more people are involved. That's where that would be more interesting, or be just cognizant about it.
All right. I have a question for you, and this is somewhat a question which always, takes me back to my childhood. And this is a very parenting question.
Yes.
So, when we play games, our parents say, don't waste time, or used to say. Can we change that word waste to something else? Can we use a different word for that?
I know. I just so the good thing is that a lot. Sorry, is your question not complete?
No, it isn't, because I want to know that what is it that the parents should keep in mind while interrupting a play or a game or a board game that the children are playing.
So the thing that parents have to keep in mind is that the children are learning when they are playing. That is another form of learning. Learning is not just about um, mm, mugging up. It's not just about reading through the books. Learning happens at various levels. And game,
Mm-hmm.
so when you look at your child and they're playing a game, unless it is a game which is, I mean, there are games which are not that great, which are just like shooting and killing somebody. I don't know. Like that's also great because it's more about enjoyment. But like if they're playing that 6 hours, any game actually, if they play 6 hours or 4 hours is a bad thing because it's going in the addiction area. But rest of them,
Mm-hmm.
the important thing for them to know it is that it is all about your child is learning. Just like earlier times, people would learn through drama, isn't it? Like drama was
Yes.
not just about fun or anything. It was about really discovering who you are within and then sharing it with everybody else, or coming out, or the real you coming out. And that's what happens when you play a game too.
Yeah, you know what, Nidhi? We have designed a board game, and I'm going to share that with you. And
Oh
it's a
wow.
board game on reading,
Oh,
and we are creating it. I've been creating it since the lockdown happened,
okay.
and I'm definitely going to show it to you and take your expert comments on that. But we have a related question. Pooja Dogra is asking, what are the top two things that you keep in mind while designing a game in addition to the topic?
Um, for us, one of the core thing is that fun element is important. So I keep in mind that is it going to be fun or not? Because if it is not fun, and if it is too much of learning, nobody cares. So it has to
Mm.
be fun. Second is again the conversations. Um, is it going to lend into a kind of conversation what a parent and a child can have? Can it start another story? So that
Mm.
is another thing that we keep in mind. So a lot of tweaks that we've done in our game to or frame the question a little differently or the sentences a little differently to enable that. So that's what. And another thing that I look at is that I always take a lot of feedback from different people. So, for example, in the board game, this decision dice that we made, the "I want" did not come from me. It actually came from Ankur Variku. I'm not sure how many people know him, but he was the founder of Nearby and speaks really, really well. And I showed my game to him, and so I just reach out to random people who are really great at their field. I didn't know him, but he accepted, and he said, "Nidhi, why are you forcing the decision? Why are you leaving children's decision on just a roll of a dice?" I was
Yeah.
like, wow.
True.
So that is another thing, that I don't think the best ideas come from me alone. The best ideas
Mhm.
come from when you are playing with multiple people, and especially with children. Um, that's what I would say. So three things: one, is it fun? Two, is it is that going to start conversations between parents and children? And the three, for every game, take multiple feedbacks, talk to children and parents. Children give the best advice, trust me.
Yes, I agree. I agree completely. Shashwat is asking, won't playing board games make us lazy? Can sports be involved with it in some way? Now, there's a very interesting thing about the sports. We have something called theater sports, Nidhi,
Oh, really?
which is actually drama, but it's
Uh-huh.
sports as well, because it is very physical, and you play with your body. So, how can sports be involved in a board game, Nidhi?
Okay, so I have to say, there has to be a balance of everything, and not everything can fit into everything. So, a board game cannot be fitted into a sports, because technically you have to be seated at a place, and it's all about. So there isn't any sports in a board game technically. So those two, I think, for the moment, have to be separate.
Unless we find something else, maybe
Unless, yeah, unless
discover,
I am
invent a
totally
new way.
wrong. Yeah, I know. And we come up with something where you have to play a game and then go and do something and come back and then do something. I don't know. Maybe of the future. I don't know.
Maybe we should think about that. 4D
Oh, yeah.
Swats is asking how we can teach saving time through a game. Oh.
Interesting. That's a
Oh.
very popular. That would be a huge hit. How to save? I don't know the answer. I don't know which game can help you save time. So as of now, I haven't come across a game which can teach you how to save time.
If you get good at a game, you save time and play the game quickly. I remember playing Bagadoodle. I just remembered the entire sequence and I saved time. So,
Oh my God! Like, just play more games faster. That's saving time. Yeah. You know,
okay,
we
Vishaka is asking. Oh, sorry. Go on. Please complete.
Yeah. So I just want to say that a lot of times we think that we need one skill, but
Hmm.
really we may not need that. What we're really looking, if you look at it deeper, you want to save time. Why? You want to save time to do more? Or do you want to save time because you can quickly get on to doing something which you love? Or do you want to save time because, like, the reasons could be many? And I think what games do is just to help you discover about yourself. Yeah. बच्चों को अपने इतने जल्दी समझ में नहीं आता है, like they won't understand at 10 or 12 or something that you know what they are, but as they keep playing the games, the different games, they do get the idea what they want to be. Like I remember when I was playing earlier, when I used to play Monopoly also earlier, when I was just a child, I was very clear I'm going to be into business, not just because of Monopoly, but also because of my father. But I think some level, the games clarify a lot in your head as you keep playing forward.
They do, because that snake on number 99, I still remember that. That has
Oh
helped me
my
a lot.
God.
It keeps me on
Yes.
my toes all the time. We'll
Okay.
take one last question, and then Nidhi is going to share, share the link to Epically Games, and we can go and Nidhi, will you give us a little discount for all the viewers who are watching us? today?
Sure, sure. We created a special thing since, but thank you for inviting us. It's called Joy of Drama, all capitals, Joy of Drama. If you go and place it on Positively Perfect website, you can get it for, you can get a discount off on our games, which is Epically Money and Epically Ramayan.
Yay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank
So,
you.
Vishakha's last question: what
Yes.
age is appropriate for children to start playing board games about handling money? What is the age where
Um,
we can start?
Okay, so this is a very good question because a lot of time when we were making the game, there was a lot of question back and forth, kitna age kare, nahi kare, and everything. So we put this as 10 years, 10 to, in fact, the game says it's 10 to 99 years, right at the bottom, because all age groups can play it. But I have to say that every day I get surprised. Today only I got a message from a parent and she says that my daughter is 5 years old, but I like to play this game with her. I was like, really?
Hmm.
Yeah. So they hand over the money. So it depends upon how involved you want to be with them and really
Hmm.
what your purpose is. Their purpose is really not to play the whole game, but just try and seed them about money. Because
Hmm.
otherwise, like some of the parents think, ki, bhai, um, like when we were researching, one of the things that came up a lot is that risk reward thing, in the not risk reward, but this rewarding method of teaching about money. You get 100 in maths, I'll give you 1,000 rupees, or I will get you this.
Ah, yes.
But think about it, what are you doing?
Hmm.
We are
Hmm.
teaching our children everything is connected with money. What is going to happen when these children grow up? They are going to be like, कुछ भी करो, कुछ भी अच्छा करूंगा, पैसे मिलने चाहिए.
Hmm. Correct.
Then if they have to take care of your own, of you, what are they getting in return? Nothing. That means they should not do it. So this whole
True.
ideology has to be so. Coming back to the thing, really there is no typical age, even if it is 5, 6, or whatever. Start small conversations about it and know more from them instead of just like it should be questions and answers, like asking more questions than telling more. You'd be so surprised what your children come up with.
Right. Thank you so much, Nidhi. Thank you for coming to our show and talking about your games and other things that games teach us. And we can be really, really life ready, I think, if we are playing games. And parents, please don't stop your children if they're playing board games, but do stop them if they're going overboard with them,
Yes.
with the time.
Yes.
Thank you, Nidhi, for coming in.
Yes.
And it's a request to everybody who's watching, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We do these conversations every week with special guests and people from all walks of life who work with or with things around children. The whole idea is to bring in method to this madness of growing up with children.
Yes.
Thank you and have a very good night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Vaishali, so much for inviting. It was an absolute pleasure to talk about all of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.